Speaking of somebody who's had the blood drained from them, the Giants are a bad football team. And John Mara, the owner, was speaking at the screening. Apparently there's something coming out soon on
Duke.
NFL Network. It's called The Duke, Wellington Mara's Giant. That's his dad. There's a documentary on NFL Network. And so he was at the screening for that. And, of course, you're at a screening for your late father. Of course you'd be asked about whether or not you're going to fire your head coach after the season. That seems like the appropriate time to do it. But nonetheless, he had to answer the question and basically said we're not making any changes. He doesn't anticipate making any changes to either Brian Daboll or Joe Schoen, the general manager. And here we are, week 8. Feels like it's been kind of a difficult offseason for the Giants with Hard Knocks and the Saquon Barkley stuff, and them basically saying, yeah, if we had the opportunity, we'd draft another quarterback, even though we've got Daniel Jones. And he's answering questions about his head coach and his GM's job security at a movie screening for his dad. Like, look, he probably doesn't anticipate making any changes. I don't anticipate getting divorced, but if I come home and I find 2 landscapers in the bedroom, I got to make a move here. So if this thing's going to go south and it's going to
join in there, what you mean?
If it's going to go south,
what the hell does that have to do with?
Well, I'm just saying, you don't anticipate making a move, but if something pops up, you got to adjust. Dang. And I don't know that
was extreme.
I don't know that they thought that this team was going to look like this at this point in time.
They didn't. Well, I mean, I don't know that anyone thinks it's going to look like this at the beginning of the season, but you were going into the season without Saquon Barkley with Daniel Jones as quarterback.
Dang.
I mean, what was your anticipation that this team was going to be able to, a rookie number 1 wide receiver, overcome that and win a bunch of football games? There had to have been an element of, we'll see. I don't know how you could have come into the season looking at some of the. Let's just look at the NFC East, for example. Philly, yes, new coordinators, but also a team that's had way more success. They've got to be feeling better about where they're at. Dallas, even for all of the regular season success they have had, it's been more about what do they do once they get in the postseason. They should have been more optimistic, despite the fact that they didn't really address the running back position, at least not how we thought they were going to. So I don't know how they, coming into the season, would look at it with optimism. And I felt like from watching Hard Knocks, it was more like, well, yeah, this is that year where we're paying Daniel Jones, $40 million a year, and he's got to earn that. Well, it's going to be tough to do that with the roster they have out around him. And not to mention, you made some staff changes too on the defensive side of the ball, and that's played an impact, I think, on how good the defense is. So I don't know how there could have been optimism for this team. I think they probably knew that they, if they couldn't get the quarterback they wanted, which I am curious how the draft worked out, if indeed that is the thought there, because they loved Jaden Daniels, reportedly, and they tried to move up to get him. So if they couldn't get him, then it's all right, do we want to spend a pick on a quarterback that we don't love? Or just go through this year with Daniel Jones, and if things go the way we think, then go try to find a Shedeur Sanders. Go try to find a Cam Ward or Carson Beck, whoever one of those 3 you like, right? That's where I feel like this kind of was, and it's heading in that direction. Is it not?
I look at him making the comments, and I know he wants to, because everything that I've heard, and you guys would probably know better than me, obviously, is that he's a really good guy. The mayor,
yeah,
like a really solid
and
guy.
Tish. Both families are very, very upscale, high end families.
It's one of the best organizations for ownership you'll find. And really quick, forget the whole whatever he's saying right now in this. I feel like the Jets have been a way bigger dumpster fire. And I know there's elements of that I think we've talked about more nationally, but the local New York media, the people that I've talked to that have been there, boots on the ground, they're giving way more crap to the Giants. And I think that's directly correlated with people being afraid of being critical of Aaron Rodgers, especially the local media there. I think they're concerned that he's going to speak back on them, or he's going to kind of shun them, not give them access. And yeah, that might be a real concern. But I would say locally in New York, the Jets should be treated worse than how the Giants are with the same record right now, only because the expectations were, in my opinion, drastically different. The way we talked about the Jets coming into the season, the way we talked about the Giants, completely different. And I think the Giants they've probably been harder on the Giants at least in the local New York media.
It does feel like such a more classy organization, the Giants over the Jets. Like if you just looked at, like, if you stand back and just look at the presentation of both, you're like, yeah, one feels like they're a little bit more buttoned up than the other.
Yeah, they're the DVD of the Arringtons' wedding video,
Damn right.
not the VHS.
Damn right.
Hey.
Damn right.
I
Yes.
gotta figure out my song.
I also think
damn.
that with Belichick being out there and available this offseason, like, there's way too much of a connection, and Belichick speaks so fondly of the Mara family and just his time there with the Giants that John Mara can say whatever he wants right now. If Belichick's there and available and interested in the job to kind of, finish his football story as a coach in the NFL to go back to where it all started, I find it hard to believe that they would turn down the opportunity. And I know Albert Breer made the point on X the other day that, it really bothers them and it troubles them, the amount of coaches that they burned through over the past several years.
It's been a lot.
Yeah,
It's very uncharacteristic of that organization, honestly. Like, it almost feels like it was out of necessity to do it, but that's just not what they've been. That's not what they've represented. Like, they're very, very rooted in traditional approaches, and I think that times change, times are changing, but that was something that, for me, just personally, just knowing how they do things and how they are from working for them, that just seemed to be, something that was new, but it also seemed like it was something that was necessary. I don't know, but it's interesting because they have not been able to figure out where this thing is going since Coughlin left. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Could be an interesting correlation there.
Bit of a mess.